Good day, everyone. Today we have our Everything AI Agent workshop, all about AI Agent, how you can go from manual to autonomous with your business operation. Okay, this is our agenda for today. We're going to go through a brief introduction of who we are, the product builders, who am I, and who my co-founder is. And then we're going to go into a bit of the theoretical aspect of building AI agent or about AI agent. And then we'll go into actually building an AI agent. And then you will have the chance to build your own AI agent. And so you can live with a automated workflow and you can live with a new knowledge set on how you can be more efficient with your business operation. Okay, so that is our agenda for today. Now let's go into introductions. So, who am I? My name is Ola Shromi. Everyone calls me Ola as well. I am the co-founder of the Product Builders. As you can tell, I am the cool one between my co-founder and I. And I currently work full-time as a product manager at Mastercard, building AI solutions for our sales team. And beyond that, within Product Builders, I do a lot of the, how do I say it, revenue generation of like trying to find clients for our consulting arm and what have you. And then we have Sharon. You want to introduce yourself, Sharon?
Hi there, my name's Shale. Really excited to be here. My background is in product management, did computer science in college, worked as a PM, and now I'm building AI models for some pretty cool companies.
Yeah, and she's like really good at. She does a lot of our product lead for our consulting for the clients we consult for. So she's the go. Awesome. Now let's get into what we are about in the product builders community. So we are focused on building builders. We really want to like teach people how to be product in the AI era. And that could look in different ways. We do that through mentorship, through education, through just connecting them with opportunities that what have you to like help them become better builders. Another thing is we want to craft the future. So we work with a lot of startups, small businesses, and helping them build their products, helping them automate their operations, helping them just level up their business as a whole. So I really focus on those sort of two core tenants. So that's who we are at the Product Builders. Okay, with the introductions out the way, let's talk about AI agent. What are AI agents? It's very simple. AI agents are essentially autonomous solutions that can take actions on your behalf. And that might seem very vague. We're going to go into some of the core principles or core properties that a system has to have to be considered agentic or to be considered an AI agent. All right. Now, the 4 or 5 core principles of an AI agent is, first of all, perception. With any sort of digital system, you always have to have an input, you have to have an output, and you have to have a processing sort of layer. So within an AI agent, it has to have an input. It has to be able to collect data from you, from either text, speech, document, webhooks, whatever that may look like. And then once that data is collected from the input layer, it needs to then reason. That is what makes something agentic versus, let's say regular workflow or what have you, right? And so that reasoning model is handled by our LLM and decision. And so it's decided, okay, hey, I've gotten this data, I've made sense of the data, and now I have to do something else. Before we have an AI, before the agentic system era, people would collect that information that the LLM gives them and then go into that tool and manually paste it into that tool. So for instance, if an AI agent says, hey, or if a LLM says, hey, this is the email you should send to Jack, right? Previously, you as the individual have to copy that email and send it to Jack. But with an agentic layer, you now have the execution layer, right? Whereby that agent can say, hey, I need to send an email to Jack, and this is what the email is. I will send that email because I have the ability now to invoke a tool. And that is what makes something agentic, is the fact that it can take an action on your behalf. Another thing as well that agentic system tend to have is a memory, a context store. This enables them to ensure that they're not making the same mistake over and over again. So what do I mean by that? Now, this AI system sends an email to Jack. If there's no memory, it will think, oh, I need to send an email to Jack again. Or, oh, I need to follow up with Jack at the wrong time or what have you. So the memory gives it the ability for it to be aware of, the history of its decision it has made, to get more insights about the customer Jack, and also give more insights about long-term thinking so that it can also improve on its decision making. And that brings up to layer 5, which is the autonomous loop or the feedback learning loop. So typically your agent should be getting wiser and wiser as it operates, and also as you give it certain feedback. So if you look at certain agent systems, they have those of thumbs up, thumbs down feature, and essentially that kind of like trains the system to say, hey, you made this decision and you did this action, that was a good one. So the agent is more wiser to say, okay, yeah, the action I took or the path I took towards solving the goal my user gave me was a good one, right? But if you did a thumbs up, it's like, well, that part was not good. What could I do better to improve it? And so that sort of feedback autonomous loop is also very crucial to building scalable AI agent systems. Okay. All right. Questions?
Yeah, I had a question. So for the autonomous loop, you mentioned like the thumbs down and thumbs up and thumbs down being a feature. So for I've heard the term evals, like evaluation. Is that part of the like an eval system having the thumbs up, thumbs down, and then that is what leads to like the model learning?
Yes, that's a good question. So the eval system is essentially to verify the output of your AI agent, right? In terms of thumbs up, thumbs down, that is part of the eval, but it's also not directly part of making the agent smarter. Let me explain for that. So when you have the thumbs up, thumbs down, it's going to your eval say, hey, this agent took this action, and it's having that sort of audit log and audit trail, right? And the user is saying this is not a bad one. So as a developer or as an engineer, I can now use that sort of collated, I guess, declined or disapproved flow, and then train my model to be better in that regard, right? Or depending on how you develop your agent. Again, this you can build an agent in different layers. If you have like a layer whereby you are actually writing the code and you've created a sort of like feedback loop, right? You can embed that into your code base to like track those disapproved and create like a model that like builds on top of that. But again, this is more complex layer, right? Transparently speaking, for the sake of this demo or for the sake of what most people will be building with no code solutions, this number 5 layer is typically not present. This layer is more present in like more sort of robust enterprise development, right? Whereby like you have like AI engineers, ML engineers building these sort of things hand in hand. But for the high level, you typically want to also have like evals, just so you as a consumer can say, hey, all right, even though I might not be able to like overhaul my own agentic architecture or like build a model to make it way smarter, you as a builder can fine-tune the prompt, right? So for example, if Jack is sending an email that is saying go to my school all the time, right? And you bring that thumbs down. When you go back to your eval, you can say, hey, all the things that people have disapproved, right? As maybe because Jack has said go to my school. Then you as the builder can say, okay, I'm going to go back to my my prompting or my AI agent's logic and try to like edit the prompt and fine tune it. And then looking back and I was okay, I've launched this sort of update. Are people still complaining about this issue or not, right? And so that's kind of how evals comes into play. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay,
a little more technical, basically.
Yeah, exactly. But there's also a non-tech aspect as well that we're going to talk about as we go into the demo. Again, every sort of agent builder has their own sort of like eval system, and then you can like build up on top of it as well. But again, it can get complex and it can also get very simple. It just depends on your need.
Gotcha.
Okay, awesome. Okay, now let's go into understanding for that. Some of the myths that comes with AI agents. A lot of people just throw AI as a buzzword. AI agents, agent. Everyone's tired of it. I am tired of it. But let's actually break some of those sort of myths concerning AI agents. Let's actually get the facts right. Number one, AI agents are not glorified chatbots. There is this sort of notion that sometimes that AI agents are just chatbots that have been coined by all these sort of ChatGPTs, so OpenAI and Anthropic to sell us more products. But in reality, AI agents have the ability to do autonomous action. Like with the example I give about Jack, pre-agentic system, I as a consumer will have to copy what my LLM says into my tool, and then I have to do that manually. But with agentic systems, I don't have to do that, right? I could be hands off and things are being done with my blessing to some regards, but I couldn't do that with a chatbot. Another myth to bust is that you need to know how to code to implement an AI agent. That is wrong. You don't need to know how to code to implement an AI agent system. You just need to have the ability to be willing to build out your process and put in some time to implementing it. And that is why we're hosting this workshop to teach you how to implement an AI agent without even writing a single line of code, because it is possible and not so complex, depending on where you're trying to build. Another thing as well is agents will replace human judgment. I know there's a lot of scare about agents replacing humans. There is some truth to that, but at the same time, there's also some light to that, because as you can tell, agent systems, they kind of operate in a black box, right? And they don't have that sort of water cooler conversational context that humans have. They don't have that sort of intuition or strategic thinking that humans have. And so they cannot replace human judgment. I like to see AI agents as a junior intern, right? Who can do this of mundane grunt work that I don't want to do, while I focus on more of the high level task, right? And human connection piece. And so agents are not going to replace human judgment, but they work in collaboration with humans to make customer productive and efficient. Another thing is agents have to be perfect to be useful. No, your agent doesn't have to be perfect to be useful, right? You have to start small and continue to improve on it. And it's the same way, like as humans, we're not perfect, but yet we're still useful. It's the same way our agent will not be perfect, but it could still be useful. But just because it's not perfect doesn't mean you should not try to always get the best result out of your agent. And we're going to show you how you can do that as well in this demo. Awesome. Now that we understand and we've broken the myth about AI agents, now let's actually go into the facts and numbers. Why do you actually need AI agents? If you're a business operator, if you're a founder, if you are just trying to be at the cutting edge, you need to know why you need AI agents. And the numbers tells us the truth and not the lie. The numbers tell us that AI agent super users save almost 20 plus hours a week. That is half a work week. And that is insane time saving that I could spend doing other things that my heart might desire. Another thing, according to a study by PwC, is 62% of companies that actually implement AI agent system see a greater return of more than 100% in return on investment from that deployment. Further on, enterprises that deploy AI agents into their customer-facing operations have achieved almost 50% reduction in the operational cost alone. And speaking of numbers as well, agent systems are said to contribute over $4.4 trillion in the annual global GDP by 2030. That is a lot of productivity gain. That is a lot of economic gain. And if I were you, I want to hop on that trail and optimize my business operation, optimize my life so that I can be more efficient and I can have the right return on investment. Okay, now that we understand the benefit and beauty of AI agents, let's also level the scale a bit and understand the risks that come with AI agents. I'll be lying to you if I do not say there are risks to developing an AI agent system. But let's go into the risk, and I will also speak about how we can potentially mitigate these risks as well. Okay, risk number one, everyone knows this. With any sort of LLM system, with any sort of AI system, the biggest risk is hallucination and incorrect output. As we all know, agentic systems which are built on top of LLM have the tendency to hallucinate. And this is a big problem, especially when you're dealing with business operation, critical business operation. On the other hand as well, with anything with technology, it's input out, input in, output out, right? So if you put garbage in, you get garbage out, right? And so you tend to have incorrect output if your data is bad. And so it's very, very important while developing your AI agent system to have the right data point and have the right process in place. Another big thing that a lot of people don't consider, especially newbie developers, is data privacy and security. Especially if you're working in an enterprise environment, data and privacy is so critical. I've heard stories about an healthcare firm who implemented an AI agent system, and this agent was going into health records that he ought not to have gone to, and what have you. And the reason why you have this problem is because there's lack of guardrails, right, and systems in place. And you need to ensure you put in the right authorization protocols in place. You need to ensure you put the right governance framework in place, and what have you. Again, based on your industry standards, this sort of privacy security reasons might be much, how do I say it, higher in priority versus, let's say you're just doing it for your own sort of environment, right? And different sort of industries require different sort of security layer. Okay. Another thing is dependency risk, right? Like we mentioned, AI agents are saving people in 50% reduction in operational cost. That is it. If your AI agent decides to not work today because, let's say, OpenAI is out of service or what have you, right? It affects your whole business. And so you need to have backup or fallback systems in place in case your AI agent stop operating. I'm going to stop for a while because I saw someone put a question in the chat. Let me just look at that real quick. How effective is prompting to make agents aware of hallucinations? Okay, I will touch on that once I finish on the risk of AI agent. All right, the other point about the risk of AI agent is, so agents have a mind of their own. Like I mentioned, these agent systems are autonomous solutions that they're going to go do things on your behalf, right? You give them a goal, and sometimes they don't care what they need to do to get that goal. And this also ties back to the data privacy security reason issue. This agent might think, oh, for me to perform X, Y, Z, I need to access certain data. And because of that, it could go do things that it ought not to do. And that is why it's so important to put guardrails in place and to develop an agentic system that you can predict its outcome, and to create an agentic system whereby you can kind of give it this sort of like sandbox or playground that it can play with. Because if you don't give it a boundary, it's going to go haywire and do whatever it thinks it should do or it needs to do to accomplish a goal. All right. Before we go into when not to use AI agents, I'm going to answer gas them up question on how effective is prompting to make the agents aware of hallucinations. Okay, so I will rephrase the question a bit, because you cannot make an agent aware of the hallucination, because I don't know if you've ever interacted with ChatGPT whereby I say, hey, you actually said the wrong thing. It's going to say, yes, you're right, I said the wrong thing. But in hindsight, it didn't know that I said the wrong thing, right, until you brought it up. So I don't think you can make them aware of the hallucination per se, or I don't think that should be what you're aiming for. But what you want to aim for is how can you reduce the hallucination rate? And so there are a couple ways you can do this. The first thing is to implement eval, right? By implementing eval, you're able to keep a track log of the times that the AI agents have hallucinated, and you are able to see the logic and prompting that kind of cause that sort of hallucination. So that way you are more informed on how you can refine your prompt. You're more informed on how you can refine your system so that this AI agent gives a more accurate data point. Another way you can reduce hallucination is through affecting something called temperature. So for those who don't know, temperature essentially is part of a model configuration, whereby like a low temperature means that the outcome tends to be more deterministic, right? While a high temperature means that the outcome tends to be more non-deterministic, meaning it can be creative as it wants and what have you, right? And so within your model configuration, in some platforms, you're able to reduce or increase that temperature. So depending on your business outcome, or depending on your use case, if you find that the agent is hallucinating too much, you can reduce that temperature to kind of get a more deterministic output. Another thing you can do as well is, of course, refining your prompt. And there are also different prompt techniques that you can implement to ensure that your agent gives you a much accurate data or accurate response to your consumer or to yourself as well. Another thing finally you can do as well is to I lost my journal. That was at the tip of my tongue. Ah, yes, I remember. The other thing you can do as well is to ensure that you give the agent system the right context, right? And so the more context you're giving the agent, the more smarter it is. And that is why we mentioned memory. Oh, sorry. Is that a question?
No, sorry.
Okay, that is why memory is also important as well, so that the agent has the context about your business, has the context about our customer, so that it's given the right outcome. Gas them up. Does that answer your question? Thumbs up, comments. Okay, I will assume that your question has been answered. Okay, all right. When not to use an AI agent? I'm sorry to say, people just want to build AI solutions just for building AI six. As someone who works with enterprises, as someone who has worked with businesses, a lot of people don't actually need AI agents in that system. They just need a simple workflow automation. Some people just need a simple Excel sheet that is with some script, right? Some people actually need agent systems, right? I need to understand when to use this so that you're not wasting your time and your money in developing the solutions. So do not use an AI agent, or do not build an AI agent if your workflow has too many exceptions or edge cases. If your output is so ambiguous, right, that there is so many variabilities that even you as a human cannot foresee, do not bother implementing an agent system. Because like I mentioned, a core issue with agents right now is hallucination, right? And them needing some sort of structured outcome in place. So if your workflow is too ambiguous or has too many edge cases, you probably don't want to start building an AI agent system yet. Another thing is, again, you don't want to spend your time and money when the task is less than few. You do this task less than a few times a week, because you're not really going to get the most out of that agentic system, right? When you can focus on more mundane, high value, high grunt work tasks that you can automate versus the once in a while tasks that you do, right? Another thing as well is, like I mentioned before as well, if you're not sure about your output, or if you cannot verify your outputs as a human, You should not expect an AI agent system to be able to verify the output for you. So it's very, very important that whenever you're building an AI agent system, that you yourself can verify that, okay, this is what the output should look like all the time, and you have a high confidence score about the output. Finally, as well, if you're in a highly regulated environment, back to the point about data privacy and security, if you do not have any governance framework in place, please do not build an AI agent system, because that could wreck your whole business reputation. Especially if you're in an enterprise scenario, you need to ensure you have the right governance framework in place, from authorization to authentication to what's this called, zero copy data, and all those sort of data privacy frameworks in place within a regular standard enterprise system, as well as your own industry standard as well. And finally, as well, if your underlying process is broken, don't bother building an AI agent system. Like we mentioned, if you want to build an AI agent system on top of a repeatable pattern that you yourself understand and you yourself can easily deal with before giving it into an agent system. Remember, always think about your agent system as a junior intern. They don't have that sort of high level experience or strategy as you do. And so you need to be able to understand that whatever work you delegate to your AI agent should be something that a junior intern can do, even without super industry experience for that matter. Okay. All right. Before you get into building, there are a couple of ground rules that I recommend people to always consider before building an AI agent system. This will make sure that you yourself as the builder have a high level understanding of like what the AI agent should look like before you even start writing code or before you start going into your AI agent builder. And so these are the things, right? These are the core 3 things. Number 1 is to understand clearly, does this process, will my AI agent have a clear trigger? What is going to be that input trigger? What is going to be that perception layer, right? Like we mentioned, every agent system has that sort of input layer and what have you. So you need to understand what is going to trigger my agent system. That is number 1. The second thing as well is, this thing that I'm going to build, is it repeatable enough? Is it rule-based enough for an agent to build? If you cannot draw a process map for an agent system, do not bother building an AI agent, right? Because you want to build something that's repeatable, real, and rule-based enough so that you are getting the right outcome out of your AI agent and you're getting the best benefit from your AI agent. Another thing as well is, there has to be a defined output and action at the end of the day. Like we mentioned as well, if your output is going to be ambiguous, or if you yourself are not sure about what the output should look like, please do not get an AI agent to build it, especially in a production environment, right? Of course, you can play around with it in a sandbox environment to brainstorm or to be a creative partner. But in terms of customer interaction, production environment, please do not do that. It's going to wreck your business reputation. All right. Case in point is a simple process diagram I built. So before, the AI agent I'm going to demo for you guys is a lead qualifying agent. And it's going to do these things. Before I even wrote a single line of code, before I built a single workflow, I built this process map. This took me less than a minute to build. This took me less than 5 minutes to build. And anytime I'm building my AI agent and I see that something is wrong, I can refer back to this to get context, right? As you can see, I have my trigger, and I have my process, and I have my output. So once the lead is submitted, my output and my process is, I want my lead to be qualified. That is a clear output, right? Okay, now that my lead is qualified, I need them to send an email. That is a clear output. I'm not making my agent think too much. Then, okay, once they have sent my email, if they don't respond, I want them to follow up. Okay, now that they respond, I want them to book a meeting. Okay, now that they book a meeting, I want my CRM to be updated along the process. This is a very clear, concise mapping of how I want my agent to operate. Okay. Before I go into some of the solutions we can use to build an AI agent, I'm going to pause real quick for if there's any questions thus far. Yes, cast them up. You're muted if you're speaking.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So everything so far is wonderful. So what I'm seeing right now, are you presenting to me that effectively I can structure an agent to where it can, take the task of actually sifting through whatever database to find leads, qualify them, and follow up on my behalf? You have processes right now that are able to do that?
Yes. So in the demo I'm going to show you for the sake of this webinar, I built a AI agent system that can do that.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Awesome. All right. Now let's look at some question. Yes.
Thank you, Ola. So I was thinking, if with the case where an agent shouldn't be built, but you still need like some type of help in that case, like are there like other AI solutions? Like I kind of want to know like high level what the other AI solutions are for like when you can't automate it with an agent, but you need like some type of AI help. Or is that if an AI agent can't help you, then AI can't help you? Is that the case?
So to give a more informed response, I need to understand the context of what you're trying to build. A lot of this sort of response I gave you guys was more for a production implementation, more for a business operation perspective, right? So for example, if I want to be an agent for my customer, right? Like a customer agent chatbot, but my processes are not defined, that is bad for business, right? Or if I'm building like a lead qualifying agent, but I do not even know my process in mind, and I want my agent to just go out and go crazy, I'm going to lose businesses because of that. So this is the kind of rubric. This is why we give this rubric, just for those best practice and standards, right? But again, depending on what you're trying to do, for example, let's say you are trying to, I don't know, brainstorm on a new novel solution, right? It's a couple of ways. I think one is like you can use your typical Claude ChatGPT to like be that creative partner. And once you start to kind of get that a sense of like, hey, part of my process of developing this sort of like new solution, for example, right? Let's say you are developing, I don't know, you're doing cancer research. I'm making this up, right? Nobody knows about cancer research. People are trying to solve this problem, right? And you need your AI assistant to be more like a creative partner as well. And then the second layer is like you say, hey, in my cancer research process, I know that I have to always check my data every week. And then checking my data every week, I need to synthesize that information and send it to like, I don't know, my research team in Japan or whatever, right? That is a process that you've identified throughout this sort of big sort of cancer research project, which is very, very ambiguous. And so, okay, this piece of the business, I'm going to give to an AI agent to like automate so that I can focus on working with Claude or ChatGPT to do the creative part of it. So that's kind of how you can mix and match it. But again, to give a more tailored response, I need to understand the context of what you're asking for, and then I can give you specific solutions to help you out in this sort of process you have in mind.
I see. No, yeah, I think that helps because sometimes, like, let's say with my business with Pepsi, it's like very heavily regulated. So like realistically, unless it's like an in-house AI solution that we have, it might be hard to take something external, give it access to all this data. But thinking in that framework and breaking it up into, okay, even though like the entire job I can't like implement an AI agent, like what small parts can I, like checking emails or you know, any other thing, like you said, like synthesizing any information, and then maybe I could also like apply, you know, see if we have an N8N subscription or whatever. But I'm sure like understanding the AI agent framework could help with whatever agent we do have access to. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And speaking of enterprises, I know a lot of enterprises use Copilot. I've looked into Copilot Studio. I built some AI agents on top of Copilot Studio, and it's not like robust like N8N, but it's good enough to kind of do some tasks for you. Have you looked into that?
I have not, so that's something I could also look into.
Yeah, so definitely a combination of Copilot Studio and Power Apps is very, very, very powerful as well. So I would definitely recommend you look at that when you get back on your company laptop. And again, you can reach out to me as well, and I can help you out, you know, on some key things as well, because I've built agents on those as well.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Awesome. All right, and now let's get agentic. Okay. Let's get agentic. All right, let's look at some local solutions to building AI agents. There are a couple, and there are a plethora of players in this field. But some key players is N8N, Lindy, Zapier, Relay the App, and Stack. Let me explain them a bit. So N8N is what we're going to be using for the sake of this demo. And the reason why we choose N8N is because one, it's open source. Two, it gives you the ability to kind of go from like 0 to 1 easily. What do I mean by that? Like if you say, okay, all right, I built a so small solution and I want to scale it into an enterprise level, you can easily do that with N8N, right? And at the same time, N8N has that ability whereby like if there's a missing gap with its current solution, you can create some out-of-the-box solution as well within N8N, right? Another thing as well, N8N, it's pretty cheap. It's mostly like $20 per month for the most part, right? And it increases based on your usage, right? But for most standard businesses, the $20 per month works for a myriad of execution, right? And they also give you like a 14-day free trial with some credit, which is amazing in my opinion. And so if you haven't done that, at some point in this workshop, we are going to create an NSN account. And again, it's free, 14-day free trial with some free OpenAI credit. So you're not paying for anything for the sake of this demo. As well as that, we have Lindy. Lindy is amazing as well, but it's also on the pricey side. Lindy is also great for people who do not want to build a lot of like drag and drop solutions and just want a very simple routine business operation. So the typical like read my email, qualify my leads, you can find those on Lindy as well, because they have amazing templates that you can easily build on top of, and they have amazing UI. I really recommend Lindy, and they also have a great like startup founding team as well. Zapier is another workflow engine and AI agent builder that is very popular. Zapier is also very robust in its app integration, right? So what do I mean by app integration? So typically, like we mentioned, in any sort of agent system, you need to be able to invoke a tool, right? Zapier also have a list of tools that you can invoke without having to write like an NCP server or without having to necessarily integrate an API manually and what have you. So that makes it easier for you as a developer or as a builder. Another platform is really the app. This is really great for small businesses. This is quite similar to Lindy, but this is more tailored towards small businesses. So they're also a great solution. Another AI agent builder as well is Stack. Stack is really great for enterprises because they have SOC 2 compliance from the get-go, and they also have like this sort of governance framework and deeper evals for enterprises as well. So they are more enterprise focused in comparison to the others. Although the other solutions have enterprise solution, Stack AI is just more enterprise focused and enterprise leaning in that use cases and in that clientele base. Okay. All right. Now, if you feel like I want to get down and dirty into the weeds, I want to get down and dirty into the code, there are several AI agent builders you can use as well. We have Crew AI, we have LangChain, and we have Microsoft AutoGen, just to name a few. Again, if you want to get into the weeds, I highly recommend Crew AI. I've used LangChain as well. Those are really great. And they usually work on the sort of node and edge sort of methodology. Again, that is a bit more technical, but we're not going to focus on that today, but those are great as well. Awesome. Now let's get into it. We're going to get into the demo. Before we get into the demo, I'm going to pause and see if there's any question on the theory side of things before we get down and dirty. All right.
Yeah, I had a question.
Yes. Go on.
Here. I just a quick question on the technical coding solutions, Crew AI, LangChain, etc. How technical can you get? Like, what does coding look like? Will we kind of cover that in the demo versus the no-code solutions for AI agents?
Yeah. So with the no-code solutions, for the most part, it's drag and drop, right? There are some times whereby you have to like configure an API. There are sometimes whereby you have to configure an MCP server. There's sometimes where you have to understand how this sort of webhooks work and what have you. But those are not really super technical. But with a Crew AI or like a LangChain, you have to literally write the code. So like they have like a Python SDK or a JavaScript SDK. So for those who don't know, SDK is a software development kit, and essentially allows you to easily build on top of like an API or on top of like a model. And so you have to like download those SDK and start to like write the code to build your AI agent. Like I mentioned as well, I'm just going to, just for the sake of everyone's knowing, I'm just going to show you real quick what I mean by that. And so they're typically built on they use this sort of like node and edges framework. I don't want to get technical. So within computer science, you have this thing called like why am I forgetting this thing? Graphs and trees, and that it kind of follows the agentic principle as well, whereby you do this action, they go to this level, right? So it's kind of mimicking workflow engine, but in a technical or in a code like manner. As you can see again, this is off the script, but this is just a sample of what you have to do, right? You have to this is how you create the agent, and then if you want to kind of build multi-agent systems, I'm trying to find, there we go. Okay, let me see if they have a code base here. This is essentially what you have to do. There's no like drag and drop, like, right? You have to read this documentation. You have to find out how to develop this within your code base and what have you. So this is the difference in that. But in N8N or like a Lindy, it has a UI in front of it, but at the back end, it's this code that is working, right? But they made it user friendly, essentially. Does that make sense? Does that help?
So this gives you a little bit more I guess, autonomy. No,
Exactly.
intended to like do what you want in the background, in the back end. Like you have to create your own MCP servers, of course, but then it's like actually implementing the code that for the no code solution, it automatically does.
Exactly. Spot on.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Awesome. Now let's get into it. Like I mentioned, we are going to be using N10. If you do not have an N10 account, I highly recommend you do that right now. It's literally going to take less than 2 minutes to create one. And again, like I mentioned, we decided to use N10 because of its combination of ability to build agentic system and workflow and automation as well. Workflow automation is different from agentic system, but they all tie towards doing the same thing, which is to save you time and to increase your productivity and to ensure that you're focused on a more high level strategy. Like I mentioned, this system, it's pretty cheap. It's just $20 per month for your execution, and then you get some credit as well, so which is amazing. And with that being said, let's actually get into it. If I lose you, please stop me and ask questions because we're about to get technical. Again, this is a very, 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 very simple AI agent I built, and it's a lead qualifying agent. And literally, the flow is once I get a lead generation form, I want my lead qualifying agent to verify the how high of importance this lead is, and then tailor an email for my lead. Right. Once that email AI agent sends that email, I want to update my CRM, which is my Google Sheet, and then I want to send them an email. And once they book an email, I want my CRM to be updated, and I want to get a message. Again, I'll walk through this demo in depth, but this is just a high level of what my agentic system looks like right now. Okay, another reason why we choose N10 as well, as like I mentioned, is that combination of the ability to build agentic system and workflow systems. Because remember, I told you that sometimes when you don't actually need to build an AI agent, you just need a simple workflow automation. And that is okay, right? Because the goal is you want to improve business, you want to save yourself time. It's not about just throwing buzzy things out there. It's not about using an hammer when you need a screwdriver, right? So it's about using that sort of right tool at the right time. All right. Now, let me explain a bit about N10 for those who don't know it. I'm going to go a bit basic, and then we're going to go advanced a bit. So as you can see, this is the UI. This is pretty much all your projects. You can create as much projects as you want. And this is the editor. This is where all the creation and execution happens. And this is where you see all your execution logs. So anytime something goes wrong, if it fails, nothing failed because I'm too good. Okay, actually, so like when I was testing this out, it failed. I can easily come back here and say, hey, what failed? Why did it fail? And then I can like fix it and I can debug and what have you. So it has this sort of like error flagging capabilities, as well as I can also get an email whenever this fails, right? So whenever I deploy it into production, I can say, hey, send me an email when this fails, and I'll get this error message, right? And so as the developer, I can come back here and say, okay, this is why this failed, and I can trace it back and then fix the issue. I can also rerun my field. I'm not going to rerun it right now, but I can rerun it by clicking this button after I have made my changes in my editor, right? And then this also is my evaluation as well. Like I've not built this as well, but you can develop your evaluation, right? Whereby I say, hey, this is my output. Remember I spoke to you guys about output quality, right? This is my output that I expect all the time. This is what you should get in the output, and it's going to give an output score. And then now we can say, okay, I'm getting a good result of 99% of the time. My customer is getting the right output, right? And then if it's getting less than that, I can come back and refine my AI workflow to my capabilities. Okay. All right. And another thing as well that I'm going to explain is with these buttons, I'm just going to this anything has this sort of like AI capability. It costs money, but like you can easily like interact with it, ask questions. Honestly, so I was playing around with the build solution, and it's terrible. Like in terms of like, say, hey, I want you to build this and that. It didn't do a good job, so I had to manually build this myself. But it's really great for like brainstorming. Like, hey, I have this issue with my trigger. Could you fix it for me, or could you like help me figure out what's wrong? And so this is also useful as well. But again, because I'm using the free version, I think it has like $20 credits I could use, but you have to pay for this as time goes on as well. Another beauty as well is I won't focus on this. This is the way the MIT is really. I'm just going to close this. So this is where the building starts from. Now I'm going to get into building. Is there any question about N10 UI, creating an account before I go into actually the development? Yes.
Okay, so I've created the account here, and I guess Okay, yours is whatever. I haven't changed the background. But so we're just gonna follow along because it's saying okay. Let me get that.
So what I recommend is actually do not even start writing anything or do not do anything. Just
Do I do
follow
anything?
now, and then we're going to
Okay.
give you guys time to go do your own. And we're going
Oh,
to be
okay.
for like I think 30 minutes, an hour or so, depending on time. And then we'll just be here for any questions you have so that we can
Okay.
work together.
All right. Perfect.
Awesome. All right. Now, in order to build an AI agent system, like I mentioned, you always have to have a trigger. Again, I'm going to just another trigger, right? You can have different triggers. You have like manual trigger, whereby you as a person are clicking a button or a form is created or what have you. Whenever something happens within an app, you can use that trigger as well on a specific time and date. There are different triggers you can use based on your use case. You as the builder, like we mentioned, this is why I always recommend you build your process map first, right? Whereby you understand what your trigger is going to look like, and then you can choose from these options, right? For the sake of this demo, because I want someone to, once a lead submits a form, I want my my agent to start working. So my trigger is on form submission. In some cases, you want your trigger to be done every hour, every day, whatever that might look like. So that is trigger. Okay. Now, once I have my trigger, I will not decide what's going to happen next. What's going to happen next? The next thing for my demo is once my lead submits a form, I want my qualifying agent to get to work. Now, for the sake of this demo, I'm going to show you what that might look like. When you first select your AI agent builder, you have this sort of three components. Remember, we told you guys about the 4-5 core component of an agent system. It has to have a brain, which is the LLM model. It has to have memory, and it has to have tool, right? And then the fifth layer, depending on your system, is that sort of feedback autonomous loop, right? And so within N8N framework, you have the ability to kind of get from a chat or just from like, creating a prompt, and then you select your chat model as well. So for the sake of the demo as well, N8N gives you free credit. I forgot how much it is. I think $200 in credit. So when you are developing your own agent system, you want to use the OpenAI free credits, and you want to use like the mini. You don't need something too complex for your demo. Another thing as well is within the LLM model, you have some built-in tool. Remember, we told you that agentic systems have the ability to use tools. And so that could look like web search, file search, code interpreter, whatever your use case is, you will select the right tool appropriately. So for instance, with my lead qualification, if I said that, hey, once you get a lead information, I want you to do a research about the company, and I want you to get me like that CEO's name or whatever, right? Then I can say, okay, I want to use my web search, right? From using my web search, I want you to like do XYZ, right? And I'm going to add that in my prompting and in my language that, hey, call the web search tool and then go find more details about this lead or what have you. Again, depending on your use case and what have you, but I'm not using that right. Oh, I don't want you to do that. So I'm going to delete this because I already have this done. And like I mentioned as well, you have tools. So tools are the things that your AI agent determines that I need to use to carry an action. So that could look like creating a sub agent, right? Again, we have different agent levels where you have multi-agents, you have sub agents, and all those things to go and do another task on your behalf. You can also call a code tool. You can call other tools like, I don't know, send a Gmail account or like create an NCP tool, right? Depending on use case, or to do another action on the app, or to store a data into your vector database, right? Depending on what you're trying to do, you should invoke the right tools, or you should give your agent the right tool. Okay. A pro tip: you do not want to give your agent so many tools. Like if you give your agent 5 different tools, it could be very overwhelming, right? So you want to give it the right tool for every agent. And another pro tip is you want to have an agent to do specific tasks. Do not have an agent do 5 different tasks at once. What do I mean by that? For example, as you can see in this short demo, let me exit out of this. I have my qualifying lead email agent. It will be very wrong of me to make my qualifying lead agent send an email, and then to make it follow up, and then to make it send an email to me myself, because that's going to be overwhelming and it's going to miss it. But you want it to only do one task at a time. So within your process, you say, okay, within my process, one of the things I have to do is qualify the lead. The next thing I have to do is follow up. The next thing I have to do is email. Do not make one agent do all of that at once, because it will miss the steps. You want to give it concise information and concise context to work with, and concise small, minute tasks to work on. The easier you, the smaller you break down the tasks, the better you get an output. This is just a basic best practices, right? And so that is that on like the agent, AI agent node on n8n. Before I go into how I do this agent and the workflow, is there any question on this? Okay. All right. Let's go into the actual demo. So I'm going to run this live and direct. But before I run the live and direct, I'm going to explain what I did. So like I mentioned, once a user fills out this form, I created this form, right? Once this user fills out the form, I want to qualify that lead. I want to see if it's like actually a great lead or not. I want to see if they're actually important or not, right? And so I gave it this prompt, right? Again, as you can see, my prompt is very detailed. I told this that, hey, I want you to analyze this and score it. If it is XYZ, then move them to this. If they're not, then move them to this, right? And I want you to do this as well. Again, from testing, I realized that this AI agent sometimes does not update my Google Sheets, which is my CRM. So I had to enable this sort of like information inside my prompt so that it does this. So as you continue to like be your AI agent and testing it, you start to refine your prompt as well till you get the output you desire. Another thing you might notice as well within my AI agent is I have the system message. So think of system messages as like the personality or the frame of thinking of an AI agent. System messages are different from prompt messages or user messages. User messages are very dynamic. User messages could be what you as the user, let's say you're a customer interacting with my chat bots that I built or my AI that I built, right? You can send the customer agent anything, right? But me as a developer, I want my agent to think in a certain way. I can say, hey, whenever I get a response from customer or whenever I get a prompt, I want you to be very blunt. I want you to be very honest. I want you to be very provocative. Whatever I want it to think like, whatever personality I want it to have, I will put that in my system message, right? Because I want my system to be very deterministic. I'm literally telling that, hey, your job and your job alone is to qualify leads. And your step-by-step follow is analyze the leads, score the leads, and update my Google Sheets. That is it. Do not do anything else. If asked another question, don't do that, right? So again, back to the point I mentioned, you want to give your systems guardrails in place. Because if you don't give them guardrails or if you do not put them in a box, they're going to go haywire and do whatever they think is right. Okay. As you can see, my tool right here is updating my Google Sheets, which is my CRM, right? So the tool that is going to call when it dims feed is my Google Sheets. And as you can see, I am not manually updating my email. This is done by the AI system. The AI is going to decide, okay, this is the right email, this is the right name, this is the right lead score based on the context it has already. And so another thing is this lead score parser, which is I use to send to my AI agent as well, so that I get the right output framework. All right. Now that the lead is qualified, it goes to my email AI agent, and I pretty much, this is again my prompt based on all my testing and everything, and same thing as well. It has the Gmail tool and what have you. Something I'm going to call out as well is anything has something whereby something called human in the loop, right? Whereby before an agent does something critical, like sending an email to a client or a customer, I have to approve it. So I'm going to say, hey, before you send an email, I have to approve it. And once I approve it, that email is going to then go out to the client. I can easily skip this step, but because of the sake of demo, like I mentioned, you want to put guardrails in place for AI agents. I can verify the email they want to send and then send that message to the consumer. Okay. And then I now update my CRM. All right. Before I go into the actual demo of testing this out in front of you guys, is there any question on this or workflow?
I have a question.
Yes.
Maybe I missed it. Could you talk about the output parser, what that really means and how that looks?
Absolutely. So essentially with this output parser is whenever I'm done, whenever the AI agent has determined the lead score of my client, right? This output parser essentially tells you how I want it to structure my data, right? Because again, agent system can give you like, this is your lead, this is everything, but it might give you in a unstructured manner. So I want to give it I want my data to be a structured format, right? Remember, this agent system give you a response back in text, right? Or in a certain JSON format. But I wanted to give it my response in this format. Hence the reason why I have this parser. Because if I don't give it in this format, it can give me like, I don't know, urgency as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Or it can give me the outputs in a way that this does not match it. And so whenever I want to use it in my email AI agent, in my CRM or in my next agent, it's going to be different variables, right?
Which makes it
Yeah.
more confused and harder to interpret.
Exactly. So this gives structure essentially. Questions? Okay.
Yeah, quick question. So from what I'm seeing, how reliable is it in terms of withdrawing data? So if I send the chat, I haven't said the chat. If I send the agent to, let's say, go on a particular site where it can scrub data on my behalf, because in my field, I would need it to look at certain published, let's say, Department of Labor documentation. So the time that it takes me to sit there and go on the DO website and look through the information and sift through it, would it be able to pull that information, or is it not?
So that's a good question. And I have 2 to 3 responses to that, right? The first thing is, yes, it can do that, but the efficacy of it is questionable, depending on how you build your AI agent, right? The second thing as well is there are supplementary solutions you can also build on top of this. Again, the reason why we recommended N8N is because you're not just using that basic systems, right? You can use other tools. I don't know if they have Firecrawl. So this is a scripting tool, right? Yeah, called Firecrawl. Firecrawl is built specifically to script data, right? So instead of you saying that, hey, I want you to just use your web search tool, you can say, hey, I want you to actually use the Firecrawl tool to then script the data instead of you just going to the generic web search, right? Because they built that tool specifically for that. So why I said that is because it depends on how you build it. If you just use the regular web search, it might give you the right response, let's say 10 out of 100 times. But if you now use another layer of complex data tool, it could give you a better response, let's say 70 out of 100, right? So it depends on how you build it and what tool you use. So for the scripting question you ask, I highly recommend you look into Firecrawl. It's a really, really great resource for crawling web systems. And so it's an AI agent. This one literally, its job is to script data, right? And so you don't even need anything for that one if you're just looking to script data. But you can use this as well if you're trying to integrate this into a general bigger workflow engine. Does that make sense to answer your question?
It makes perfect sense.
Awesome. All right. Okay, let's go. Any other question before I go into the actual demo? All right, no question. Let's get into it. All right, now I'm a user and I come onto my website and I fill out this form. I am Olashwemi. This is my email. Company is Acme. I'm a COO. And then my question is, I need your help urgently to solving my problem. All right, I submit this. Boom. It's going to do its magic. And then I'm going to go to my personal email, not my personal email, my business email. And then in a couple of minutes, anything is going to ask me a question that, hey, this is it running. This is it running right now. As you can see, it's gotten the lead information. It's qualified my lead. It has updated my CRM. It has given me a good output. And now it's about to send an email to my client, right? But before it does that, it's not going to send an email until I approve it. So I go back to my mailbox and boom, as it wants to send a message to a lead, I'll say, okay, go for it, approve it. I approve that message, then boom, in a couple of seconds in my personal email, the email I added to that lead form, I am going to get a response. Let me just pull that up. Okay. Okay, so I'm trying to put my personal email. There we go. All right, and so just like that, this is what I get as a lead. As the AI, I have not done anything. My AI agent has already gotten that lead information from my form. It has then sent the prospective lead an email, right, of how they can now book a call with me. And once they book a call with me, all right, I book a call with the client decides to book a call with me based on what my lead says, books a call with me, all right, sends. And then I, as the business owner, or I, as the person that built this form, I have not done anything. And now I'm going to get an email from my AI agent on my upcoming meeting. It takes a minute. It's running. And then boom, it tells me, hey, you have an upcoming meeting. This is what you need to know about the client. And so I'm going into the meeting prepared, and I've not done anything. So that has it takes time. I have taken me like, I don't know, an hour to qualify the leads, to do research, to send them an email, to get a time that works for them. Literally took me less than 5 seconds, because all I had to do was open the email and read that, hey, I have this upcoming meeting with this client. This is the context about the client, and then I'll just hop on that call, and that's it. That's literally my agent from 0 to 1. It's literally